First things first, NBA Finals tip tonight. Who needs a title more for their legacy, Giannis or CP3? Aaron Rodgers opened up yesterday about his offseason. Tell you what he had to say. And this Royals fan, this one right here with the old fire wallet. Good Tuesday morning, everyone. Welcome to First Things First. Jenna Wolfe, Nick Wright,
Jenna,
Kevin
Jenna.
Wilds. Nick, what is going on with your Kansas City brethren? What?
I'll be honest, don't care at all. I need everybody to up the energy. It's game one of the finals. Let's go. Let's go, America. Come on, fire wallet, go to hell. Let's go.
Well, we ride your coattails on this Tuesday morning. First things first, we start with my big plans tonight. Everybody's wondering, it's just on my couch. It's about 18 feet from here. NBA Finals, Bucks Suns, game one from Phoenix. The biggest question heading in, Giannis' status. As of this morning, he is listed as doubtful, dealing with that hyperextended knee from game 4 in the last round. He did some on-court work yesterday, but it seems more unlikely than likely that he will play tonight. So, Nick, what are the chances the Bucks can win game 1 without Giannis?
Not great. I don't like their chances at all for game 1 without Giannis. And if they would have rushed Giannis back and forced him into the game, I wouldn't have loved their chances in game 1 anyway, because Phoenix has actually been at their best in game 1s, and Milwaukee's been at their worst. You look at Phoenix's playoff run, the one time they beat the full-strength Lakers, or full-ish strength Lakers, was game 1. They then blew out the Nuggets in game 1 of that series, and Devin Booker had arguably, one of the 2 best games of his playoff life in game 1 against the Clippers with no Chris Paul. The Bucks, on the other hand, game 1 against Miami was the only game against Miami they almost lost. It took overtime for them to win that. They got beat soundly in game 1 against Brooklyn. And in game 1 against Atlanta, they lost, and Trae Young almost had 50. I think he had 47 and 11 in that game. So you don't have Giannis. Phoenix, once again, to their credit, and because they've earned it, not only is it home for this game, but also is the more rested of the teams. For all those reasons, I think Phoenix wins game 1. Now, I don't think it means Phoenix wins the series, but Brandon, I think your Suns, which Brandon is like an incredibly charitable foster parent. He's just adopting teams left and right. There is Nets, there's his Clippers. We were wondering all of a sudden, is there going to be anyone else? Now Brandon's Suns have come along for the ride. I think your Suns, Brandon, win tonight. I think they win tonight.
Yeah, listen. When everyone in America is saying, oh, the Suns, we shouldn't be talking about the Suns. When nobody wanted to talk about them 4 months ago, yeah, I stood up for them. I'm that type of guy. If I see someone being bullied in the playground, I'm going to stand up for them. And all of a sudden, the kid that was getting bullied is now in the NBA Finals. Look, Nick, I guess they have a chance as far as the Bucks. No Giannis, that's a big problem. I mean, if the Suns, if they have 20 turnovers, and we're talking about P.J. Tucker brings back that corner 3 that was left in Houston 2 years ago. I mean, have we seen that? And this guy Drew Holiday or Middleton, if they drop 50, we seen KD do it against the series against the Bucks. Game 5, 49 points, and he got it done by himself. I mean, that's the only chance they have, Wilds, if those guys go slap off. And then you have the Suns who do the unthinkable. If the Suns do what they haven't really done all year, and that's turn the ball over and that's play bad basketball. Now, of course, they lost games, but it's rare that you see the Suns just play bad basketball. So I got to go with the Suns in this one. I don't think they have a chance. And, Nick, you can go out there, and Wilds, if Nick wants to go out there and say, I don't think they win the series. Well, Nick, you need to hurry up and pick. I don't know if we're going to do that, Wilds, later on in the show, but I'm waiting to hear who Nick is going with. Yeah, okay.
Well, keep waiting. You're going to get to hear it. Don't worry. Go ahead, Wyatt.
It's not how TV works, Brandon. You don't just give out, Best Picture, Academy Award star. Best Picture goes to the department. Like, okay, turn the channel. It'll come to slow drag out. Okay, here's the answer. A little better than you think. The Bucks have a little better chance than you were thinking at home. Here's why. 2 reasons. One is the paint, the other is the 3. In the paint, when the Suns played the Bucks, they were outscored in the paint by 50 points. It's the biggest differential from any team that they had played. Now, I know what you're thinking. Wilds, that's because Giannis killed him in the paint. Yes, you're right, and Giannis isn't playing. So you have to take Giannis out and put in the old ghost of Brook Lopez, who came out and was like, yeah, guys, guess what? I don't just shoot threes. I can also get in there and do damage against the Hawks. So if he can replicate that performance in the paint like he did against the Hawks, he could really eat up Ayton and the Suns. Here's the other thing about the threes. In their 2 games, Nick, Devin Booker took 45 shots. That's good, right? Takes a lot of mid-range, takes a lot of, gets to the hole, takes a lot of threes. Wrong. Only took 8 threes because Chris Middleton wasn't letting him have it. So I think that's going to be an issue. If it's one thing to like the mid-range game and be like, it's back, and he's got an all-versatile game. It's another thing to be forced into the mid-range game because Middleton's length and overall defense has taken the shot away from you. So I think that the Bucks have a decent chance. They've got some momentum with this team playing without Giannis. If they can dominate the paint and limit Booker from 3, I think they have a better chance than everybody thinks.
All right, so I like your second point. I actually think the right strategy is the exact opposite of your first point. I think that if they're going to try to, of course they're going to try, but I think in order to win game 1, Wilds, it has to be total bombs away from 3, and that involves, Brandon alluded to it, putting P.J. Tucker on the bench for game 1 and starting Pat Connaughton. I think that if the Bucks are going to win game 1, it has to be that we are going to go not 4 out, we are going to go 5 out. So Brook Lopez can still play. So you can keep Brook Lopez on the court so he can guard Ayton on the defensive end. But on the offensive end, if you go 5 out, you all of a sudden, DeAndre Ayton is going to be in unfamiliar waters because you're going to have guys, if you surround him with shooters. If you put P.J. Tucker on the court, then Ayton can still kind of stay by the rim and pretend guard P.J. Tucker like teams used to do with Tony Allen. So that would be my strategy if I were the Bucks for game 1. But Brandon, hold on 1 second, Brandon, because I want to show you something real quick. Because I do think there has been a little... I'm not going to convince you on the series, but I'm going to think I might be able to convince you on a player. I don't think there's been quite enough respect put on what Chris Middleton has done these playoffs. Just show Chris Middleton compared to Devin Booker. Like, has Booker been better?
Right.
Yeah, but barely. He's scoring 3.5 more points per game. But he's not rebounding as much. The assists are basically even, and the field goal percentages are almost identical. Now, Booker has 2 40-point games, but Middleton's got 3 35-plus point games. And so Booker's explosions have been, larger, but Middleton's actually had 1 more. The reason I bring it up, Brandon, is for a night, can Chris Middleton give the Bucks what Devin Booker gives the Suns? Yeah, I think he can. For a night, could Drew Holiday, mitigate Chris Paul to a degree? Possibly. Now, I actually think that night is more likely to be game 2 than game 1. But I think the Bucks, they got a heartbeat without Giannis. They can't win the series, obviously, without him. But on a one-off to Wilds' point, I don't think it's a game that is going to be over at halftime.
Listen, we put a lot of respect on Chris Middleton's name on this show. Hell, there's times where we even threw him in a conversation, him and Giannis in a conversation with Kobe and Shaq. So we've definitely thrown a lot of respect on his name. But that is the difference, Nick, is he hasn't had a 45-point night. He hasn't gone off like that, and he absolutely needs to have a game like that to help his team out. Here's the deal. I just want to be clear here, Jenna, before we move on. The Suns are the better team with or without Giannis. let's go back to the regular season. Giannis averaged 40 points. Wild, you talked about that. You talked about how he dominated in the paint, and they still lost. Now, Nick might come out because he's the historian. He's the show, the resident archivist, and he's going to say, oh, they only won by one. They only won by one. But at the end of the day, they won. They dominated the series. Yeah.
They dominated the series.
The Suns are still
beat them by 1 point twice. That's not quite dominating the series. One of them was in overtime. And they were
Semantics by Brandon Marshall. It's just semantics. So to recap, once again, Giannis still listed as doubtful for Game 1 tonight. What are his Finals MVP chances if he does in fact miss time? We'll tell you. First things first on a Tuesday morning. Play a little drawing a blank, fellas. Finals getting underway tonight. Who's going to be the guy, you ask? FoxBet Sportsbook has set the odds on that guy, NBA Finals MVP. They got CP3 as the favorite, followed by Devin Booker, Giannis, and Chris Middleton. So, Brandon, the NBA Finals MVP will be blank.
All right, so I think the trend is it goes to a guy on the winning team. So we got to start with the Phoenix Suns. And over there, you can pick from two guys. I mean, you can pick from three, but really it's going to come down to CP3 or Booker. I'm going to go with CP3. Why? Because of what he did to close out the last series. He went in his bag. He was super aggressive. He didn't do that the game before when they had an opportunity to eliminate those guys, but he did. He came out, what was it, 40 points, 41 points? I expect him to be aggressive. There's something to these type of moments where the players, the veteran players come in, they're like, you know what? I know how to slow the game down. I know how not to get too high, but I also know how to be aggressive. Some players you're going to see in the limelight for the very first time on the big stage, and their eyes are going to get big. Their hands are going to be shaking. Not CP3. I expect CP3 to be on fire from start to finish this series, whether it's in 5 and 6 or if it go to 7, which I don't think it will. So I'm going to go with CP3, Nick. And it's going to be interesting seeing who you go with because you're going to tell us who you have winning the finals.
Brandon is so intrigued by my pick. I gave it yesterday. The first words out of my mouth to start the show, I gave it. But we can keep it going here. Listen, I would not be sad if Chris Paul wins it. Because Chris Paul would be winning, essentially the Shaquille O'Neal, LeBron James annual award, which is you stole my regular season MVP from me, so I will win the finals MVP as a make good on it. Something Shaq and LeBron done a few times in their careers. So I wouldn't be sad if CP3 wins finals MVP. I'd be happy for him. But I think this is the year of Giannis. I think the year when everyone finally was like, all right, you know what? He's reached his ceiling.
There it is, America.
I think not only is he going to continue an unbelievable playoff run, but he's going to do it in sports heroic fashion by returning from injury. I just want to show the audience what Giannis was doing in these playoffs before he went down with an injury. The left-hand side is Giannis these playoffs. The right-hand side is Shaquille O'Neal for the 3 titles with the Lakers, his playoff averages. Is he doing quite what Shaq's doing? It's like 92% of Shaq's production with slightly better passing and the exact same percentages from the field and the free throw line. So I think Giannis is going to be back by Game 3. I think the Bucks will take control of the series when Giannis comes back.
Wow.
And I think Giannis is going to go 2019 NBA MVP, 2020 NBA MVP, 2021 Finals MVP. That's the arc I see coming. So I am going with Giannis.
I like that. Look, I would love if Giannis got it. I think it's still CP3. Even if Ayton or Booker has better stats, I still think it's CP3's to lose. Here's why. It's not a super statistical award. And I know that Nick has been divorced from the analytics community, and he's trying, but if it didn't go its way, he'd be like, well, the true plus minus, when you look at Ayton, it's not. That's not what it is. It's less of a head award, more of a heart award. And I think everybody in America wants to see CP3 win this award. So even if the numbers, if the stats aren't there, it's going to be a tough play. Oh, what about the true shooting percentage. When you dig into the numbers, when he's off the court, it actually increases. Like, he's missing me with all of it. That's all. He's all they're like, oh, darn it, all true shooting percentage. So, I don't even know who that
Wild's heard it more, not less.
Do your stupid baseball segment and shut up.
Weird and wonderful. You guys see this? Nats Padres bottom 4, Fernando Tatis Jr. Hey, what number is that? Oh, that is number 27. 27th home run on the season. 160 miles per hour off the bat. Hardest hit of his career. That is pretty wonderful. But Wilds, what else you got for us?
Well, we're going to start with a fan. Hey, do you like practical jokes? Do you like an old buzzer on the handshake? Do you like an old fly in the ice cube? How about the most dangerous of all practical jokes? A fire wallet. Everybody thought this was wonderful on social media. Not me. I actually think it should be illegal. Moving on to the wonderful. Uh-oh. We're back to the man. Holy cow, you started off the segment with a hit, and you're in the middle of it with a catch. Consistently the most exciting player in baseball, nice. Pulling off of Michael Jordan, 2 goats sitting there. And finally, we're going to go back to the weird. And look.
That's nice.
What are you saying? No. Can you raise your hand to interrupt my segment because I called him Jordan the GOAT?
No, I wanted to talk about Tatis. Can we talk? They told me we were done here, so we can talk about Tatis.
I'm ready to go. I'm fired up. You told me I'm ready to go. Let's go.
Hold on. We got to keep showing the Tatis thing, if we can. Brandon,
right.
He jumps, and then he gets higher by kicking his legs out from underneath him. He reaches the apex of his jump.
Never seen it before.
Watch it. He re-jumps midair. I've never seen that.
Right.
I didn't know that was possible.
Yeah.
This is
freakish.
like, remember the cheerleader who stood on the fake step and then did the step over? It's like, how did the physics work in that? Brandon, you're the best athlete on the set. Explain how he does this. How does he re-jump midair?
Actually, Jenna's the best athlete on the set. No one knows it. Oh Jenna, you need to post more of those videos.
Teller, Brandon
Nick, I've never seen anything like this. Yeah, I gotta be real. You know, I always gotta keep it real, Jenna. But Nick, listen, the only person I can imagine a pitcher doing this is Odell Beckham Jr. That's it. This is freakish. This is freakish.
I can't believe it. It's an unbelievable play. I don't think it's... you have to keep watching it because he gets higher. His jump stops and then continues like he's lifted by an angel.
I mean, some guys, you just can't explain some of these guys' ability, man. That's why they're pro athletes, I guess.
Danny Glover when you need it.
Make a movie out of it. Angels in the infield.
Let's get back to the Chris Paul conversation. Is his legacy secured even if the Suns don't win the title? CP3 seems happy just to even be in the position. Take a listen to this.
I don't know. It's weird, no games being on. I usually watch games every day, so that's probably the part that sucks. That's probably the part that sucks the most, but I'd rather be playing than not.
Back here talking Bucks Suns, game 1 of the finals, tip off tonight. Both teams with a superstar in search of a first title. Giannis for the Bucks, Chris Paul for the Suns. Can Giannis get himself healthy enough to get back in the lineup and take them all the way? Meanwhile, for CP3, a title could cement his spot among the top point guards of all time. Hey, Brandon, who needs an NBA title more for their legacy, Giannis or CP3?
Ooh, don't kill me here. Weirdly, it's CP3. I don't think the narrative changes if Giannis wins the title. I don't. He still has a huge void to fill, a huge gap in his game. When you look at CP3, the narrative does change. Now, I know, Nick, on your top 5 point guards of all time, I think you have him now at number 5. But can he potentially, move Isaiah Thomas? Can he potentially become maybe number 3 the number 3 point guard of all time, because Steph Curry, I know you have him at 3. Steph Curry, I don't think he should be on the list of point guards. I think he should have his own list, playmaker or even shooting guard.
Oh, that's interesting.
I understand why you have him there. I understand why a lot of people have him there, but I just think he redefined the point guard, the position, to the point where he should be in his own category. Right. It's almost like the athlete, playmaker, in football, the Tyreek Hills of the world, and you go on and on. So weirdly, I think it's CP3. CP3 changes the narrative when it comes to his legacy. And when you think about Giannis, going back to him, he doesn't have the pressure of a LeBron James. The weight of the world was on LeBron James to win the championship. Giannis, everybody knows he's a great player. Everyone knows what he can be if he develops that shot. But no one's saying, oh, he needs to win. People are even actually putting more pressure on a Luka than they are on a Giannis. But, when you think about this conversation, you got to put together, the greats that came before him and the pressure that they put on him. I just don't think Giannis carries the same pressure of a LeBron James or even a KD for that matter.
Sure. So I think the answer is CP3. And it's not a slight on his resume to say that he can go up a notch. And here's why, Nick. I'm going to describe 2 guys who are beloved NBA players. I personally love them both, and I think they are held to the highest esteem when you talk about their tenure in the league. Here we go. You're going to be able to guess them, but play along. Okay. One guy was drafted in 1996. The other guy was drafted in 1997. Same. One guy was All-Star 15 times. The other guy was All-Star 11 times. Okay, great. One guy's first team All-NBA 4 times. The other guy was first team NBA 3 times. They both won the MVP. They both went to the finals, but only one of them has a ring. Those guys are Kevin Garnett and Allen Iverson. Both guys who you just wanted to win a ring. And Garnett was the guy who got it. So I wanted you to look at this through sort of the prism of what if Iverson was the champion and Garnett wasn't? Would you wow, that Allen Iverson, champion. You would lead with that. Kevin Garnett leads with champion. And a lot of the other stuff flows downhill from there. So that's where I think we are with Chris Paul. We're not there yet with Giannis. I think if for everything he's accomplished, the first thing you would say, he's a winner and he's a champion. And I think that matters.
So here's the thing, though, with Iverson. Iverson got his championship by getting to the finals. I don't feel like whenever we talk about, we hang something around guys' neck like they never won, Iverson doesn't get that. Because it's he took that Sixers team to the finals. They lost to an all-time great Lakers team. Nobody kills him for that. And so, to me, that's the Iverson. Go ahead, Wilds. Go ahead, and then I'll give my answer. But go ahead.
I think that gets you to a certain level, but I don't think that's a parallel to Chris Paul. I don't think we'll view that. A lot of that is because he stepped over Ty Lue. He made an iconic moment. If that didn't happen, I could argue that finals would be remembered less. But I feel like if Iverson would lead with champion, all these other adjectives that we give him, to sort of these accolades that would give him, would sort of fall by the wayside. No, he's a champion. And that's what I think would happen with Chris Paul. This leadership stuff and oh, look what he did with the lowly Thunder.
Okay,
that would all fall by.
I think that's probably all right. That it would lead with this, no doubt about it. But I actually don't think it changes his legacy that much. And so my answer is Giannis, but let me first go to the CP3 stuff, because Brandon is right about my top 5 point guards: Magic, Oscar, Steph, Isaiah, Chris Paul. I already have him 5th. He's not catching Isaiah with 1 ring. Isaiah won 2, should have won 3, if not for a terrible foul call at the end of Game 6 when Isaiah had the iconic sprained ankle game. He's not catching him with 1 title, and Steph is still playing and ahead of him. Now, I know Steph and CP3 have this odd rivalry, and CP3 has always felt he's better than Steph. Brandon's right. They play the game so differently. He's not catching Steph either. Right. To me, he's already past Stockton. He's already past Iverson. He's already past AI. He's already past Kidd. None of those guys have titles except for Kidd, and Kidd let's be fair, was a different player when he won his title. The more impressive thing for Kidd was the back-to-back finals he led the Nets to, not when he averaged 7 points and 6 assists for the 2011 Mavs, and that's where he got his ring. So that's to me, CP3's legacy by getting here is cemented, and he's almost hit the ceiling of how high he can go. That is not the case for Giannis. So let me turn the conversation to Giannis about what it means for Giannis if they win this title. Guys with multiple MVPs and a championship, it is only 11 guys. Those 11 guys, by the way, have won 39 of the 66 MVPs ever given out. And those 11 guys are basically 11 of the 14 or 15 guys you need to tell the story of the NBA. The guys with multiple league MVPs and a championship go like this. Bob Pettit, who won the first damn MVP ever given out, was the player of the 50s. Bill Russell and Wilt Chamberlain, the iconic players of the 60s. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, the player of the 70s. Moses Malone, the transition guy who won 3 MVPs and a title in a 5-year run, from the 70s to 80s. Magic and Bird, the faces of the 80s. Michael Jordan, the player of the 90s. Tim Duncan, LeBron James, Steph Curry. To tell the entire story of the NBA, you need those 11 guys plus Shaq and Kobe. And it's like, oh, we've got it. We're done. And a lot of people think Shaq should have won more or Kobe should have won more. MVPs, that is. Giannis, if they win this ring, adds his name to that list. It would be a 12-person list that takes you through 75 years of NBA history. He also would have his ring younger than Michael, younger than LeBron. He would be 26 years old and accomplished, quite literally, everything an NBA player can accomplish. So, Brandon, what I want to ask you is, you're talking about the holes in his game. My ask would be, what would it matter if they win the title? I'm trying to think of a good cross-sport comp. If there's a great, people would say, Emmitt Smith. Like Emmitt Smith, he couldn't do the game-breaking runs Barry Sanders could. Okay, well, but he has more rushing yards and more touchdowns than anybody ever. So what does it matter if he couldn't do certain things, if what he could do, he was so unstoppable at? If Giannis wins the title, he is just a total made man forever.
Right. Because before this run, the last series, we were talking about Giannis' game not being good enough for them to make it to the finals and win the finals, right?
Yep.
So I'm not putting an asterisk around it because I just don't believe in putting asterisks around seasons and championships because guys go down because of health. It's a war of attrition when you come to professional sports. And unfortunately, the NBA had a rash of injuries. But that's the reason why, is because his game, we have already said that his game is not good enough to win a title with the team that he has. So, Wiles, when you look at this year and you say, okay, LeBron James, if he never went down and they were healthy, you got KD, you got Kyrie and James Harden. If they never went down, would Giannis be in this situation? That's why I feel like the narrative doesn't change with Giannis, but it does with CP3. CP3, look, I believe the Lakers would have won, but it would have been a battle. They could have potentially won a Game 7, maybe, but it's changing when it comes to CP3. Nick has now, just like a lot of other people out there, have moved CP3 in the top 5 of point guards of all time. And now the narrative, oh, he's a great leader. He's a great leader. Well, we weren't saying that the last couple years. What were we saying? Oh, his teammates, he's tough. He's a little too aggressive. Now people are embracing his leadership style. Now people are appreciating him in the postseason. So that's why I'm going with CP3, because the narrative is changing.
Yeah, well, if CP3 wins the finals, he gets to take an eraser to all those 3-1 leads that he blew, whether for his injury or bad performance. He gets to erase that. And legacy, I think that stuff falls by the wayside. Nick, here's the other thing that I think it doesn't speak to your graphic, but I think it speaks to your larger point. if Chris wins this title, he also puts a moat between him and Stockton, because I think people can look at the numbers and be like, well, Stockton went to more finals. Stockton was always constantly there. Stockton has the assist numbers. But if you get the ring, you start to build a moat. So it's like, you can always, because I know you love it. I know you are a count the rings guy. The person with the most rings is the better player. So if one guy has one more than the other guy, I think there's a nice moat between Stockton and CP3.
Well, and by the way, I said this to Brandon off the air. My top 5 point guard list is not the consensus one. Now, it happens to be the accurate one, but a lot of people think I wildly overrate Isaiah and CP3. And those people think that because they can only view basketball through the prism of the box score. And Isaiah and CP3, with their contributions to winning, are almost unparalleled. And if we're going true point guard, like the truest sense of the word, Oscar and Steph are kind of in a different category. By the way, Jerry West is like, hey, what about me? You're a shooting guard to me, Jerry. That's why you're not there. Like, he's in a different category as well. But some people, Wilds, make the argument, not just Stockton. They make the kid argument. They make the Gary Payton argument. I'm not trying to leave Walt Clyde Frazier out, who was unbelievable. So some folks think Chris Paul, the folks that feel that way, the answer is definitely Chris Paul. Because they think Chris Paul right now is closer to the 10th best point guard ever than the 5th best point guard ever. To me, he's already accomplished everything he needs to accomplish. But I understand your guys' argument that for those guys, Chris Paul's got a lot of rungs of the ladder, Jenna, to keep climbing up. They're just wrong about it, but they have a right to their opinion.
Remind me to tell you my Allen Iverson story. We'll do it another time. We're back talking some football.
Oh, please.
Because Aaron Rodgers talked yesterday about his offseason. So it was pretty interesting. We'll share his comments with you next. First things first. Back here, first things first. Let's talk about Aaron Rodgers. So much of the conversation around the NFL MVP this offseason has centered around his football future. But yesterday during a news conference, Rodgers took us in a different direction, opening up for the first time about the work he's doing on his mental health. Take a listen.
Sometimes the loudest person in the room is not the smartest person. Sometimes the loudest person in the room is not the person who has all the facts on their side or the truth on their side. Sometimes there's a lot of wisdom in silence. Sometimes there's a lot of wisdom in being selective on what you say. And this off season, I've spent a lot of time working on myself. I think for a long time, mental health has been only an okay topic to broach if you're talking about dealing with bouts of depression, suicide, like it's a big issue topics, right, with mental health. It's been a weird stigma around it that I think there's been some athletes who've spoken out about those things and gotten the support they deserve. But there's not a lot of conversation around just the idea of having a very positive mental health state. And I think there's a lot to it that I've learned, that I've focused on in the off season, about how to take care of myself, not the total package, not just my physical self, the workouts, but my spiritual self with my own mindful practices, my mental health as well. What's the best way to take care of that? And that's what I've been doing this off season. That's why I've taken the time I've taken and done the things or not done the things that I've done. And I'm very thankful for that time.
Brendan, what did you make of what Aaron Rodgers had to say?
Yeah, well, first, let me start by saying this. Going back to 2011, when I was on the campus of McLean Hospital, I spent 3 months in an outpatient program where I was diagnosed with borderline personality disorder. And one day I was sitting in a group therapy session called self-assessment. And sitting next to me was a young lady who had blood seeping through her arms. and that was the first time I heard about self-harming. And then there was another young lady sitting next to me who talked about taking her life the night before. And I couldn't believe I was having these conversations, and we all got up after. I went to Reebok's headquarters to go train. This was the year of the lockout, and they went back to work. One was a student, one was an insurance broker. And in that moment, standing in the parking lot, I saw 200, 300 cars out there. I said, oh my goodness, how many people are walking amongst us or living next to us, suffering in silence or suffering, and we have no clue. So at that time, I felt like we needed to have these conversations. We needed to put faces on these diagnoses and these conversations, and also voices, and make sure that we were pushing these conversations forward. Now, what Aaron Rodgers is talking about is interesting, right? Because when I first saw this, I was like, man, is this dude making an excuse about why he's not there? And when you listen to it, it's like, oh, he's talking about mental health and mental fitness, because let's not get it twisted. There's two off seasons that he's having. There's a business off season with the Packers where he came out and other people came out and said, look, I'm not happy here. Okay, I feel disrespected. So let's put that conversation on the side. Let's put it on the shelf. The other conversation, the mental health conversation, which is awesome. I'm glad that he brought it up, because we don't talk about it enough. Every time we cover the athlete, Naomi Osaka or any other athlete, the first thing we think about is physical, physical, physical. We don't talk about the thing that is 80% mental, and that's our mind. Right? So why don't we train our mind enough? Why don't we develop our brain if life in sport is 80% mental? So Aaron Rodgers is right. There's one side of the spectrum that is impairment, and on the other side of this spectrum, we're talking about performance. When we talk about mental health, we live on this side too much. We're talking about depression, anxiety, which is fine. There's almost 320 million Americans, and almost 100 have a diagnosis, live with something. So we dominate that side of the conversation. What about prevention? What about intervening early? Well, that's what my passion is about, is how do we shift the conversation to mental fitness? Aaron Rodgers in Hawaii taking his time off, because the NFL is, when they talk about performance, anytime you're in a performance-based business, it is a toxic environment. Every day, it's about performance. What have you done for me lately? If you're not performing well, they're going to ask for you to take a pay cut. If you're not performing well, you may be cut. You may be the guy that's walking out that day with a garbage bag filled with all of your stuff that was in your locker. Not a box. They're not shipping it. You have a garbage bag or two. Clean out. We'll see you tomorrow. And then in the next hour, there's another guy wearing your jersey with your nameplate and replacing you in the locker room. So this conversation is needed, Wilds and Nick, because this is important. And what Aaron Rodgers is highlighting is the difference between impairment and performance, mental health and mental fitness. So it should be a conversation that we talk about more, because guys in all walks of life and women in all walks of life need to take time to really see where they're at spiritually. They need to see where they're at holistically. So hats off to Aaron Rodgers for starting this conversation.
No, I thought nearly everything Aaron said was great. The one part where he's like, the loudest guy isn't the smartest, I'm like, I totally disagree with that. But everything else I thought was really smart by him. And I think, Brandon, he keyed in on something really important, which is not just these shows, in just regular life. If someone says, I'm dealing with a mental health issue, we do, at least I, maybe not you because you've been, trained and you've studied in this area, but my mind does go to the extremes. It's like, oh, you're in crisis.
Right.
Like, what can we do? Like, we do think about suicide. We do think about depression, clinical diagnosed depression. And what he said was nuanced and I thought really interesting, which is, he didn't say this part, but I'm going to add it for him. When we talk about an athlete injury, it's not, well, either you've torn your ACL or you're totally fine. We all the time with the body, it's like, no, I can still run, I can still play, but I feel like I tweaked a little something. Or I feel like I need, a little extra maintenance on my hamstring, something like that. And when we have these discussions about mental health, we don't ever talk about it in those terms. Like, no, I'm good. I'm not thinking about self-harm. I've never thought about suicide. I'm not depressed, but I am feeling a little extra anxious. Or I am, I'm wondering why I should be a little happier than I am. Why am I not? Let me, kind of dig into that. And I think it was, it took a certain type of bravery for Kevin Love a few years ago to say, listen, I'm dealing with depression. Took a certain type of bravery for Naomi Osaka to be like, you guys don't understand why these press conferences are so tough for me. This is a different type of thing from Aaron. It's not so much bravery as much as it is just helpful in moving the conversation to, he's not saying I'm depressed. He's saying, no, I just wanted to do a little tweaking. That's exactly right. I want to do a little maintenance.
Right. No, you're 100%. I love what Aaron Rodgers is doing. Like you said, you're pushing the conversation forward, right? New movement equals new language. The stigma around mental health, it's like debilitating. But if we start saying mental fitness, it changes how we approach it, how we talk about it. And I'm not trying to use this as an opportunity to talk about me or my company, but right now we have, over the month of July, we're going to have 100 pro athletes training here. We had Ja Morant come in yesterday. We'll have Anthony Edwards come in. We have the Shaquille O'Neal sons training here. That's on the basketball side. And I probably have a list of 20, 25 other NBA guys that will be training here in their offseason, on and off, a week here, a week there. And on the football side, we'll probably have so many guys. We've had Myles Garrett already here, Jarvis Juice Landry, Amari Rodgers, the rookie that just walked by my door here. So I say that because here we have mental health practitioners on site. Like, that's what we're doing, is pushing the conversation forward. Like, don't wait until it's too late. Don't wait until you're suffering. You need to be proactive right now, because when you talk about the stress and the pressure on all people, but specifically pro athletes, you better get ahead of it. So one of the things that we do here, Wilds, and I just want to throw it to you because I don't want to turn this into a House of Athlete thing, but on Wednesdays, like tomorrow, when Ja Morant come in here and Jarvis Juice Landry come in here and Leonard Fournette come in here, they can't do anything physical. It's all mental health. It's called Mental Fitness Day. So we have group therapy, that self-assessment group that I just talked about. You'll see a group of guys doing that, the college athletes, the pro athletes, and then general population and focus groups. We have recovery and we have Vinyasa Flow. If you want to go pound some weights and go run, you can go find another facility. But it's important as people and athletes to make sure you're proactive and you don't just live in the space of health and wellness, but also just performance, because it's important to be on both sides of the spectrum. So it's an important conversation. I'm glad that Aaron Rodgers is pushing the conversation forward.
All right, and I had a question for you, Brandon. How do you think that ends up manifesting in everyone's professional world, whether you're an athlete, whether you're a dentist, whatever you're doing? I think the mental health, mental fitness, I maybe mistakenly always put those in sort of two different categories. And when I think mental fitness, I may have an arcane view of it, of like, all right, there's flashing lights and you've got to hit them. But like, how do you see mental fitness bringing people to the next level, whether you're an athlete or whether you're an orthodontist?
Peak performance. Let's just talk about the pros, right? Like, it was up until 3 years ago where it was mandated that every organization, every team had a clinician on staff. Like, it was at their discretion. Some teams had them, some teams don't. They made that change a couple years ago, which is interesting to me because we keep saying this. This is a thing that we've been saying for years. 80% of the game is mental. 80% of life is mental. So why don't we train our mind more? Why don't we train our brain more? So if you want a better Aaron Rodgers, if you want him to perform well, then you want him looking at where he's at spiritually. You want him to be sitting down and meditating and figuring out how healthy his brain is, or when he's stressed, talking to somebody. So it's all about peak performance, whether you're a pro athlete or you're a Kevin Wilds, a super producer who does phenomenal things and produce so many amazing shows. It doesn't matter. It's about peak performance. Like, you want to be better.
And And while you're interested in, how it affects orthodontists, Brandon said Myles Garrett's there. Just have him come in and bring some of the guys he was playing basketball with and ask him, okay, how does this help you in your greater Cleveland Dental Basketball League? And then we'll find out that way.
Right. There you go. Great
once
conversation,
again, Aaron Rodgers opening
I'm glad we're having
it really is. And Aaron Rodgers opening the door for folks to have conversations like that, what you call mental fitness, especially for him heading into this season. All right, we're going to get back to basketball now and set the stage for the finals, which get underway tonight. Bucks and Suns. Without Giannis, can the Bucks steal Game 1 tonight from Phoenix? We got Chris Broussard with us next. This is First Things First.
Well, Giannis going to lead up.
Back here with Chris Broussard. And Broussard, here we are. Finally, Game 1 of the NBA Finals tonight. The biggest question heading in, Giannis Antetokounmpo. Will he be able to give you? What will he be able to give you? And when? Bucks superstar currently listed as doubtful for tonight, dealing with that hyperextended knee from Game 4 last round. He did some on-court work yesterday, but it does still seem unlikely that he'll be ready to go
I have a confession,
for tip-off tonight. Broussard. Okay. Okay, why don't we just go ahead and get your confession before I go to Broussard? Tell me.
Here we go. I don't know how to say Giannis's last name, the Greek, the freak. Can somebody help me, please? Like I know it's Giannis because you said it. Say it again. Okay. All right, great. We're gonna work on that. Well, you got.
Here's why I love you. You're so real. Like, if it's in your head, it's out of your mouth, and America knows about it. I love it so much.
I try to, there's some things I try to stay away from.
You could have kept that to yourself.
On live television, I'm like, I can't say that word. I can't say that person's name. But y'all know I chop people's names up all the time.
Since we're a little off the rails, Jenna, just real quick before you ask Broussard the question, since we're already off the rails, if we're going to talk to Brandon about the Giannis, also, by the way, you add an extra "the" in his nickname. It's the Greek Freak. You call him the Greek the Freak, which I actually like, but it's just the Greek Freak. Yeah, there you go. All right, Jenna, now that we've got it all taken care of, Jenna, go ahead.
Listen, my kids think the word is YouTube, so we have not corrected them yet. So we're all dealing with little things. Broussard, easy question for you. Who wins the NBA Finals? Bucks or Suns?
Well, Jenna, because of what you just said with Giannis, it's not an easy question, really, because he's such a wild card. We don't know if he's going to be back at all. We don't know when he comes back. Will he be close to his old self, or will he be severely hampered like we saw Trae Young at times, like we saw James Harden? So it's a tough question. Look, at the beginning of the playoffs, forget the regular season, but at the beginning of the playoffs, if you had asked me and probably most people this question, Milwaukee, Phoenix are going to make the finals, who you got? I wouldn't have even thought twice about picking Milwaukee. It would have been them in a landslide. But now I'm going with Phoenix in 6. Whether Giannis plays, how much he plays or not. Now, with Giannis, let's say Giannis can come back from games 3 forward and he's 85%, like he looks pretty good, close to his old self. I give Milwaukee like a 40 to 45% chance of winning. Like, I wouldn't be surprised at all if they win it if Giannis is there. But I'm still going with Phoenix. If he can't play at all, then I give Milwaukee 0 to 10% chance of winning. And I'm just kind of leaving that out there, that 10%, because anything can happen. Now, I don't think without Giannis that Milwaukee just gets the floor wiped with them. Like, I think that they still can make it competitive. I think they still can push it to 6, even without Giannis, because they play well together, and I think they got, obviously, they got some good players, and they showed against Atlanta that they can play well even without Giannis. I think one thing to watch is Chris Middleton starts. Like, the first 2 games of all 3 playoff series, he's averaged 17 points on 37% shooting. It's almost like he has to feel out the defense and figure out how they're defending him, and then he emerges, because from games 3 forward, he's averaging 26.5 points on 47% shooting. He can't afford to start slowly in this series. They have to get a split, I believe, in Phoenix to really have a good shot at winning this series. And so he's going to obviously have to play well in both or certainly one of those games. Then the last thing is how do they cover Phoenix's pick and roll? They like to drop back and give up the mid-range shot. That is obviously Phoenix's strength with Devin Booker and Chris Paul. So I think the Bucks will do a lot of switching, which obviously creates mismatches for Phoenix. So their defense is going to be interesting to see how they guard the Suns.
Yeah, I think the Bucks are going to win the title, assuming Giannis is back by Game 3, and I think Giannis will be back by Game 3, so I'll take the Bucks. I don't think they have to get a split. They didn't get a split against Brooklyn, and I understand everyone says, oh, but Brooklyn with all the injuries. I understand Brooklyn had all the injuries, but they won Game 3 when Kyrie was healthy, and they were leading Game 4 when Kyrie went down, and Kevin Durant did something that I don't believe, with respect to Chris Paul and Devin Booker. They don't have the level Durant got to in Games 5 and 7, and Milwaukee won anyway, including a Game 7 on the road. They lost home court against Atlanta by losing Game 1, and they ended up winning that series in 6 despite not having Giannis for the last 2. This is not disrespect to the Suns at all. While I wasn't talking about them as a contender back in February as Brandon was, I did at the start of the playoffs say the two best teams in the West are playing each other in the first round, the Lakers and the Suns, and as Broussard very well knows, I was correctly saying Chris Paul should have been the league MVP all year. So I'd be happy for the Suns and Chris Paul if they won the title. But Brandon, I think the Bucks got over such not only a mental, but it was almost like an exorcism of the playoff failures from the previous few years by what they did in Game 6 and 7 against Brooklyn. I mean, they were a boxer that was knocked down for a 9 count twice in that series. Losing by 50 in Game 2 looked like it was going to be an early knockout. And in Game 5, when they had that game and they let Kevin Durant take it from them after being up 17, to have Kevin Durant come and kill them, for them to get up from that, and then in overtime, to get up from, we all talk about that game. We're like, oh, if KD's foot wasn't on the line. Yeah, but the Bucks were thinking, my God, we had this game won, and now we got to go win it again. I just think that is how you become a champion. So assuming Giannis is back by the first game in Milwaukee, I think the Bucks will win the title.
Well, hey, I know we live on TV, but what they say, when you assume, you what? Don't do that. Stop assuming,
Nick. Ass out of you and me.
Can't assume
if Giannis isn't back, we all got the Suns.
You can say that.
But the thing is this. If Giannis misses the whole series, then obviously the Suns win.
Okay, let's listen. Everything's centered around Giannis Antetokounmpo, the Greek freak. That's what it's about. You see, you saw what I did there? I got it right. Did I get it right?
Yeah,
Giannis.
That was great. You got them both right. You got them both right.
There we go. Bam.
And the Greek freak.
The Greek freak. Listen, he has no chance. Hyperextended knee. He comes back. Maybe he's 80%, 85%. It's still not good enough. It wasn't good enough in the regular season. I don't care, Nick, if they only won by 1 point per game, but the dude averaged 40 points a game against the Suns this year, and he still couldn't beat them. So with him or without him, the Suns are a better team. Now, look, can they win a game? Possibly. If we see PJ Tucker standing in the corner at the three, hitting that little corner 3 shot that we saw 2 years ago, and a lot of times in his career, throughout his career, maybe. And then you have Drew Holiday or Chris Middleton drop 49, 50 points like you saw KD do against the Bucks in Game 5, maybe. And then you also got to throw in the Suns turning the ball over 20, 22 times, which they rarely do. They protect the ball. So they have a chance, but there's no way they're going to win this with or without Giannis because he won't be 100%, Wilds.
Okay, so I think that the Bucks are going to steal one in Phoenix and end up winning in 6. And Broussard, I made up a nice graphic of your favorite segment called Nightmare Fuel. Here's why the Bucks should scare the Suns. Nightmare Fuel for the Phoenix Suns, we call it. First up is the haunted restricted area. Broussard, you know this. In 2 regular season matchups, the Bucks outscored the Suns by 51 points in the restricted area. Obviously, that was a lot of Giannis. We don't know how good he's going to be. Yes. But we also saw Brook Lopez said, you know what? Let me go back and be old school, Brook Lopez, and get in the paint. I think he's going to abuse Ayton and steal a game. Number 2, Booker's threes. Disappear. Why do you say that? Well, good question. Devin Booker, in their 2 regular season games, Broussard, took 45 shots. He only took 8 threes. That's because Middleton was guarding him and denying those threes. And I know he likes the mid-range. We know he likes to get to the hoops. But you want the threes to be an option. So that wasn't a choice. That was him being forced out of taking not less threes and more 2s. And finally, and this is a weird one we're not talking about enough, the Bucks ghost lineup. The ghost lineup is because Giannis isn't there. Holiday, Middleton, Tucker, Portis, Lopez. They started games 5 and 6. They outscored opponents by 39 points in 37 minutes. And you can tell me, it's just the Hawks. The Hawks are pretty good. And it's a good margin of they're putting points on the board. That's so, Broussard, for those 3 reasons, specifically number 2, if Booker's not hitting threes because Middleton's locking him down, I think the Bucks win this one.
First of all, that was excellent. Wow, it's a nice mix of analysis and entertainment. Ooh. No, that was good. I like that. But part of it, too, is that, remember, that's the Bucks. Their whole philosophy is protect the rim and don't give up the 3. So part of that was Booker playing into their hands if you're the Bucks, right? You're saying, look, we'd rather you hit mid-range jumpers than threes, but at the same time, Phoenix likes that too. And I remind you in those 2 games, for all your bells and whistles you just put on the screen, Phoenix won both games. So it's an interesting situation there. I think Ayton's different now. And certainly he's played well all year. Even last year when he came back from the suspension, he was playing well. But I think it's a different DeAndre Ayton. I don't think Lopez just abuses him. Lopez, I'm glad he's turned back the clock because he used to be a great low-post scorer. But I don't think he abuses Ayton the way, he may have in those early matchups. Obviously, Giannis was
that young pup gonna have his way with Lopez.
Just two very quick points. One is we have to stop talking about these regular season matchups like they're indicative of a team.
No, but it's just
it's just hold on. The first game, Drew Holiday was in COVID. Drew Holiday was in COVID protocol. PJ Tucker wasn't on the team. The Suns got a gift.
Here's the
foul call with 0 seconds left and won by 1. The second game, Giannis got hurt in overtime, and the Suns won in overtime by 1. That's first point. Second point is Broussard.
Chris Paul was dealing with a toe.
Muttering. That's fine. You're making that up.
Chris Paul was dealing with a nagging toe.
I thought you were ignoring that.
Broussard, I heard you mutter under your breath the ultimate hedge. There was no hedge from me. I did not say if Giannis isn't 100%, if not. No, I did not. I said if Giannis is back by game 3, the Bucks win the title. That's what I said. That's the pick. Obviously, if he's out for the series, they can't win the title. That's not a hedge. That is a very precise
I'm just wondering why. Why I didn't get that leeway with Brooklyn. When I said if they're healthy, they're winning it all, you ripped me to shreds.
Because none of those guys were injured before the series. If a guy was out before the series and you wanted to be like, if he comes back, if he doesn't, that's why you didn't get the leeway. The other reason you didn't get the leeway is because you're a jerk and you voted for the wrong MVP and you still won't admit it. So you don't get the leeway. That's it. Those are the rules.
I definitely will not admit
that. Speaking of MVP, let's talk about finals MVP. Can Giannis still win the award if he misses time? These guys will tell you next what they think. First things first on a Tuesday morning. Tonight on FS1, the biggest soccer tournament of the year is down to the semifinals. Catch Messi as he leads Argentina against Colombia. The action kicks off tonight, 8:30 Eastern on FS1 and the Fox Sports app. All right, time now for Stories to Start Your Morning, brought to you by Subway. And here we are, gentlemen. Finally, Game 1, NBA Finals. Big question heading in. Giannis, what will he be able to give you and when? Bucks superstar currently listed as doubtful for tonight, dealing with that hyperextended knee from Game 4 in the last round. He did some on-court work yesterday, but it seems unlikely he will play. Okay, Brandon, this is the crescendo right here. Who wins the NBA Finals?
Crescendo!
Bucks or Suns? We waited all show for this.
That's awesome. Yeah, crescendo. I used to say that when I was playing ball in practice. Crescendo! Here we go. Let's work ourselves up. Why? So if we're going to crescendo, why are we talking about the finals and not just the game? Can I just at least pick Game 1? Golly. But if you're going to force me to pick, I'm going to go do both. Well, Suns they win tonight, and they also win this series in 5. That knee is that's a big issue. All right, hyperextended. Even if Giannis comes back, Giannis will be, 85%, right? And we're looking at him, yes, he can go north and south, but can he go east and west? I don't see that happening, so I'm going with the Suns in 5.
There it is.
Oh,
right,
well, Brandon. I have to tell you, I think the Suns should be very nervous, and I've made up a beautiful graphic called Nightmare Fuel. It's a scary graphic with a friendly voice by your old friend Kevin Wild. Here's why I think the Suns should be a little bit nervous about what the Bucks have to offer. The first up is the haunted restricted area. Look, in 2 regular season matchups, the Bucks outscored the Suns by 51 points in the restricted area. Obviously, it was a lot of Giannis, but remember, Brook Lopez did damage down there against the Hawks and Clint Capella. He could bring that character out again and really torture the Suns. Number 2, Booker's threes disappear. Why? Devin Booker took 45 shots in their 2 regular season matchups. Only 8 were threes. Yeah, the guy loves going to the hoop. He loves the mid-range game, but he wants to shoot more than that. That's because Chris Middleton was on him and forced him off the three-point line. So look, if they end up shooting a lot of 2s and the Bucks can finally start hitting some 3s, it could be very bad for the Suns. And finally, the Bucks ghost lineup. Nick, the ghost lineup is when Giannis is not out there. Holiday, Middleton, Tucker, Portis, Lopez. They're the guys that started the last 2 games. They outscored the Hawks by 39 points in 37 minutes. So the idea that they're just out there and really struggling is just straight up wrong. That unit has some momentum and they can put the ball in the basket. So for those 3 reasons, I am going Bucks in 6 overall in the series, and I expect them to steal one of these 2 games in Phoenix.
All right, so I am also going with the Bucks because I believe Giannis will be back by Game 3. And the way I see this, I don't think they're going to split in Phoenix, though, Wilds. I think that tonight the Suns are going to win rather handily. The Suns have been spectacular in Game 1s, and Game 1s have been terrible for the Bucks. The Suns the healthiest the Lakers ever were when the Suns beat them was Game 1. They blew out the Nuggets in Game 1 of their series, and they beat the Clippers in Game 1 of that series, even though Chris Paul didn't play. Meanwhile, the Bucks, the only game they almost lost against Miami was Game 1. It went to overtime. They did lose against Brooklyn in Game 1, and then they lost against Atlanta in Milwaukee in Game 1 when Trey went crazy. So I think the Suns win rather easily tonight. I think the Suns win a very close, very good game in Game 2, and people are starting the coronation similar to what happened when the Nets went up 2-0 on Milwaukee. And then I think Milwaukee wins 4 of the next 5. I think Giannis comes back in Game 3.
Hold on.
Giannis is excellent by Game 4. And the Bucks win in 7 after winning Games 3, 4, 6, and 7.
Woo!
The exact arc they had against the Nets.
Hold on.
Losing Games 1, 2, and 5.
So did I hear you correctly? You said that the Suns will win Game 1? Is that what I heard you say?
Suns win Game 1 and Game 2. And the Bucks win Games 3, 4, 6, and 7. Yeah, go ahead.
Our superstar producer, one of our superstar producers, Dusty, who's a fan favorite, he just texted me this. Of the 74 NBA Finals in league history, the Game 1 winner went on to win the title 53 times. That's nearly 72%. Let's go, Suns.
Yep.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Nick,
Yeah,
Hey,
winning
listen,
game
I don't
one
see
is
it
helpful.
happening.
Here's the thing, and I would tell Dusty, who is a superstar producer, might be a little strong. A winner of game 2s win the series, like 70%. Winner of game 3s, winner of game 4s. If you win a game, you're far more likely to win the 4 needed to win the title. I also think that there is going to be an element, and I'm excited to see it tonight. If the Bucks are going to win, I think they need to put P.J. Tucker on the bench, put Pat Connaughton out there, and try to bomb from 3 like Wild's been talking about.
You don't want to see the corner 3 from P.J. Tucker?
Draw Ayton away from the basket, make him go guard on the perimeter. That's what I would do if I was Budenholzer.
Giannis
He's
is
going to have that in his bag now.
For tonight. This conversation continues on Undisputed coming up next.